This is Debt Free in 30 Technical Tidbits Edition, where we answer short questions from our listeners about debt, money, and personal finance. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
On today's Technical Tidbits edition of Debt Free in 30, we're going to address a common concern raised when someone is considering filing bankruptcy. Who will find out that I filed bankruptcy or a consumer proposal? It's understandable that you don't want knowledge of your financial problems broadcast far and wide, and as we'll see, that's just not the case. However, what's even more important is to ask the right question. Will bankruptcy help me, and should I be embarrassed if someone finds out? To talk about these issues, I'm joined by my Hoyes Michaelis co-founder, Ted Michaelis. So, Ted, walk us through it. Who is going to find out if you file bankruptcy?
Okay. Well, so people need to understand that bankruptcy is a legal process. Anything done through the courts is public information. So that makes it sound like the world is going to find out. That's just not the case. From a practical standpoint, the only people that know that you filed bankruptcy are the folks that are informed directly about the bankruptcy. So that means the people that you owe money to. You're required to give your trustee a list of your creditors in a bankruptcy or a proposal. We send notices to those creditors so that they can avail themselves of the process and they'll leave you alone.
So that's called the initial mailing.
That's right.
And when does that happen?
So it's got to happen within 5 business days of you actually filing. It's all done electronically now by most firms, certainly by our firm. And so it goes out very quickly.
So within a day or two, everybody you owe money to finds out.
Right.
And obviously the government is going to find out because that's who it gets sent to as well.
Yep.
What about Revenue Canada?
Well, Revenue Canada is notified of all the filings. I mean, half the people that become insolvent in Canada owe the government money anyway, so they're on the list of creditors. But even if they're not, they're notified regardless. Probably more a greater concern for people is what about your employer? So if you have a wage garnishee, somebody's suing you and they're taking money off your pay, then your employer is going to be notified that you filed bankruptcy or proposal because that's how we stop the wage garnishee. It's probably the reason you filed the bankruptcy or the proposal. If you don't have one of these things outstanding against you, no one's taking money directly from your pay, then there's no reason for your employer to be told and your trustee's not going to contact them. So unless somebody's already taking money off your pay, you don't have to worry about your employer finding out. And presumably that means the people at work aren't going to find out.
Yeah, and you're actually going to tell us, I want you to talk to my employer because otherwise this wage garnishment can't stop.
That's the reason you came in the first place, because they were taking money off your pay.
We have to talk to the payroll person to get it stopped. They're the only person who can stop it, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's another aspect of this too then. So the fact that you filed bankruptcy or proposal is going to show up on your credit bureau report. There are a few credit bureaus in Canada. The major ones are Equifax and TransUnion. They get an information tape from the government every month, basically saying who's filed an assignment or a consumer proposal this month, and they also who's been discharged from their bankruptcy or their consumer proposal, who's completed the procedure. So that information gets posted on your credit report. So anyone looking at your report after you filed will probably notice that that's happened.
And obviously, it's not like anybody can just go pull anyone's credit report, but if you're applying for a loan, then they will look to it. And
yep.
You made a key point there, and that is it's not you and me, the trustee, who is notifying the credit bureau. The bankruptcy or the proposal is filed with the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy, and then they, in turn, report to the credit bureaus.
Correct.
And the individual creditors are also reporting to the credit bureau.
Yep. So the credit bureau, and we could do a whole show on credit bureaus. The credit bureaus report whatever their members, the people that you owe money to, tell them to report every month on your credit report. The government reports whether or not you've availed yourself of the insolvency laws to get relief from your debts. The trustees actually have no direct intercourse with the credit bureaus because there's just no facility for us to do that.
Yeah, we don't have the right to discuss it with them. So that's how the information gets there. So now, to me, the key question is not who's going to find out. You've already said that. I mean, anybody who's involved in the bankruptcy is going to find out, your creditors, and that's a good thing. You want them to stop calling. You want them to stop garnishing your wages.
Correct.
I mean, a lot of people are afraid to go bankrupt because they're afraid people are going to find out. But I think it doesn't really matter if anyone finds out because, number one, lots of Canadians end up declaring bankruptcy or filing a proposal. What kind of numbers are we talking about?
Yeah, I've always thought that the number was something like 11% Canadians, but I think that it's even higher than that. It's somewhere between 1 in 6 or 1 in 7, which is as high as 15% of all Canadians. So I don't know if you're cheering on the Blue Jays these days, or you were, because you're at the Dome with 40,000 people, look around at any one point in time. Well, there's at least 6,000 of those people are in financial difficulty or will be.
Or have been. Yeah, I mean,
it's a huge number.
And I mean, you get on an elevator with 6 or 7 people. Well, one of those people at some point in the past or in the future is going to be in a situation where a bankruptcy or a proposal is something that they've got to consider. So I think that's a key consideration. You're not alone. I don't think you need to be embarrassed about something that 1 in 7 people are ultimately going to have to do.
I mean, it's part of the indoctrination process that the lenders have still done. The whole idea of bankruptcy still makes folks uncomfortable, and it does make them embarrassed. But that's because the moral suasion is they want you to pay your debts. And frankly, if you're able to pay your debts, you should.
Sure.
For those people that can't, though, this is a legal procedure designed to give you relief so that you don't, it doesn't affect the other aspects of your life, because bankruptcy, financial problems create so much stress. You take it on your family, your kids.
Yeah, medical issues, it stresses you out and everything. So I think that's the other key point then, that you've eliminated your debt. I mean, let's focus on the positive thing here. Okay, fine. There's going to be a note on your credit report. Maybe we're going to have to talk to your employer to stop the wage garnishment, but you are now debt free once the proposal is done or the bankruptcy is done. And that's really what matters. That's what we should be focusing on here.
And there is life after bankruptcy. I mean, there has to be, because again, 1 in 6 Canadians at some point in their life is going to be insolvent. You can't just take 1 out of 6 Canadians out of the marketplace and say, oh, sorry, you can't use credit ever again. That's just not realistic.
Yeah, and you can take steps to improve your credit report once this is done.
That's exactly right. In fact, the whole purpose of this is to give you, after the relief from your debt, is to give you some financial tools, some knowledge, so that the next time around you're a little bit wiser, a little bit more careful, you're less likely to get in trouble.
Yeah, so it becomes a win-win. So I guess to sum up then, don't be focusing on the negative that, people are going to find out. Look at that as a positive. You want the creditors to find out so they stop calling you. You want your employer to find out so they stop your wage garnishment. And it becomes the fresh start that you need. Your debts are eliminated. You can take steps to start rebuilding your credit so that in the future you actually will be able to finance a car, a house, whatever it is you need to do, which you won't be able to do if you keep going the way that you are now.
Yeah, nobody ever believes me when I say this, but probably the most useful or helpful thing you can do for your friends and coworkers is to tell them when you've done this sort of thing, when you've relied on a consumer proposal or a bankruptcy to solve your debt problems. Because most people don't talk about their finances, and therefore they suffer much longer than they need to. If you share some of your experiences, one, you can tell them to go to somebody that's treated you properly, so they'll get a better level of service. But more importantly, some of the stigma associated with this stuff will be removed, and people will seek relief sooner. So there'll be less stress, less anxiety, less suffering.
Fantastic. I think that's a great way to end it. This is designed to be a positive process. And so worrying about who's going to find out is not something that you need to worry about. Well, that's our show for today. That was the Technical Tidbits edition of Debt Free in 30. Full show notes can be found on our website at hoyes.com. That's HOYES.com. So thanks for listening. Until next week, I'm Doug Hoyes. That was Debt Free in 30.